Hello, I'm Karen A. Bryant, also known as Spirit Chimed. I'm talking to you today because this week actually marks a year. A year ago, last year, I had a major surgery. I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a tough time. It was an early diagnosis, and I was shocked. I was surprised, but I know my body, so I knew something wasn't right. And they told me that with the testing, it was very, very, very early, 3 earlys, very, very, very. And I kept saying to them, okay, well, what do we do so it's not late? How do we address that? And I had to actively be a part of every part of that process, so that from July 3rd, when they tested me, and had results of various tests from that point on to a surgery last year, August 27th, and had a complete hysterectomy. And what I knew when they gave me the diagnosis, because I understood that cancer is rage. So as soon as it was identified that that could be the possibility, I went deep, I went in, I looked for that rage. What was it that sent me to that place so quickly, when I had my annual exam the year before and there was nothing there? So what happened in a year? And I really dug deep, really sat with myself and looked at it. And I knew the moment that the rage hit me at such a level that it had culminated at a point that was, I just remember the intensity of the emotions. And when this came full circle, I was like, no, I need to go get that. I need to find out what caused it, what it is. And I had to really be honest with myself about some unresolved issues and some rage that I had. And once I did that, then I just really dug in. I increased my meditations. I changed my diet. But I knew, because things start in the spirit before it comes in the body, I knew that I could work with my body to heal it. And I had to first decide if I was really ready to go, if I wanted to go that way, if I wanted to leave the planet that way. And my answer was no. I didn't want to go out like that. I also understand, and these are things that we'll be talking about on the channel, just through the various types of meditations that I post, the subject matters that we touch on when we're looking at the workshops, and the things that we'll be discussing when we launch Soft Power Chronicles. But back to the point is that I know it starts in the spirit before it manifests in the body. And so then I again had to identify it in the body and then start to do the work from the spirit realm, from a spiritual perspective. So again, understanding cancer is rage. What am I so angry about? And there's a series of things that I did that we'll talk about in the different segments. Well, one of them, like I said, was first was to identify it. Second was I knew that I needed constant audio stimulation to elevate and change my frequency. And so I YouTube the music, meditative music. And when I'm in the car, Spotify, what am I playing? No word music, really more just frequency and vibrational music that helped calm my spirit, because I knew that anger, rage meant heightened cortisol. So I needed to lower my cortisol levels through audio stimulation as well as reprogramming my thoughts. So I did that. I also sat with myself to identify, which meant I had to write it out. I had to write down who was it, what was it that was that had me enraged. And again, once I identified the moment, then I had to look at, was I going to let that take me out? Again, understanding that we all choose how we go. Some of the things that I'll say might be non-traditional in terms of what you've heard or thought, and it could be, cause folks to kind of be stirred up or riled up. But we all decide how we're going to go, right? How we're going to go. We have that appointment. We're leaving. We're going. If we constantly eat a diet that is filled with sugar, with carbs, with those things we deem unhealthy, then the body is going to react to that. And so then if we die of high cholesterol, if we die of sugar diabetes, if we die of those types of conditions that are diet based, then we chose that, right? We chose to eat those foods which created the conditions in our body, which took us to the place where the body stopped performing at its optimal, and then it gave out based on that. So again, for me, understanding that, what am I bringing in the body on all levels? So I adjusted my diet. I still was eating pretty well, but this I said, okay, I have to focus on all of that. And then going back to identifying. The body stores things. It just does. It doesn't lie. So everything that happens to us is stored in the body. And the best way to release whatever's in the body, there's 3 things we can do. We can talk about it. We can exercise. So we do a physical exertion and journal, right? And I recommend and have used a combination of all 3. So in this space, understanding what was happening, I had to talk about it to those that I could who would support me. So I had to be wise in where I was speaking on it, because also what you speak, you create. I had to look at physically doing a bit more exercise, and what could I do working with my body physically. And then I journaled and I wrote. And I will tell you that from the moment they took the test and the initial results came back that it was cancerous, from the time they then ordered a blood test so that they can see if there were any markers. And so there was a time frame of about a week, maybe 10 days between the initial test and when they would draw blood. And I started working on everything that I just mentioned to you. So by the time they took the blood, the doctor posted the results and said, congratulations, you don't have cancer, because there were no markers in my blood. Now, mind you, they had done the physical examination and sent that to the lab, but now the blood work was saying something different. So I said, okay, well, I'm confused, because you did 3 biopsies when you went in, and they all came back saying that there was something there, but the blood test is saying that there's not anything there. So then they had to readjust, because again, if they had misdiagnosed one way or the other, and there was the cancer and they didn't treat it, then what would happen? So at that point, then they looked at scheduling the surgery. And so I had to go to different specialists and move everything through. And what ended up happening is, when I had the surgery a year ago, when I came out, they had to do, it was an extensive surgery, more because I had issues from years ago, childbirth. My bladder had fused to my uterus, and so an hour of the 3-hour surgery was separating my uterus from my bladder. So they also had to take a couple lymph nodes. They had to test them to see if there were any cells, or they called them rogue cells. And after the surgery and then the follow-up, they found out that there was no cancer. So what was there originally had dissipated 10 days. It wasn't in my blood. And then when they went in to do the surgery, there was no cancer there. Now, I did have some fibroids that needed to be addressed. And because I'm past my through menopause, I don't have cycles. I'm not mensing. I wasn't mensing anymore. So it didn't make, if they were in there, take the fibroids. I was fine with that process, because then that got to alleviate the fibroids that were there. And we'll talk about fibroids in another session. But it was by all means what one would consider a miracle, right? So I'm grateful. I claim that, I received that, but I know that I had to do the work to change that in my body. And I did, by working with it, talking to it, spending time with it. And one of the other things that I did as I was prepping for that was the surgery, and that whole process is that I had to really understand that once I had the surgery, that I had to go all the way in. And when I say that, I mean pull my energy in and just support myself. What do I need in this space to heal my body? And we'll share that with you over the next couple sessions. But I just really wanted to take some time on the anniversary of that and talk about what happened and then what I have been doing since then. Moving through and having the surgery, again, was amazing in the sense that there were no more cancerous cells there. But as I mentioned, that surgery separating my bladder from my uterus, it took me 8 months to heal from that. We'll talk about that again in one of the other sessions. But thank you for joining me. I wanted to start by sharing that story, and then we'll, through these other dialogues, talk about everything that I've learned, everything that I've done to heal my body and change the direction and the course of my life. And I invite you to just join me, right? Because there are many of you that are going through this scenario and much worse. It's okay if it's not as bad as that. We all have something that we have to navigate. And I just want to be here to talk through it with you, to see how my story can help you or your story can help someone else.